I've lived next to Vera Quinton for 3 years, and she never spoke more than 5 words to me until the night she slipped that note under my door. Now I understand why she keeps every curtain drawn and why her backyard light hasn't worked since 2019. My name is Bethany Carver, and what I'm about to tell you happened just 3 weeks ago in our home in Millbrook, Connecticut. I'm 34 years old, I work from home as a marketing consultant, and I used to think I was pretty rational. My husband Griffin is a night shift nurse at Millbrook General. He's 36, 6'2", and has this distinctive deep voice that our 8-year-old daughter Piper loves to imitate when she's playing dress-up in his scrubs. That voice almost got us killed. When I heard Griffin calling my name from our backyard at 11:42 p.m. on a Tuesday night, every instinct told me to run downstairs and let him in. He sounded tired, maybe a little frustrated, exactly like he does when he's been dealing with difficult patients all night. The way he said, "Bethany, honey, I forgot my keys," was so perfectly Griffin that my hand was already reaching for the deadbolt. Thank God I looked at our bed first, because Griffin was right there, sound asleep on his side of the mattress, his hospital badge still clipped to his scrubs, his arm thrown over my pillow the way he always sleeps when I stay up late watching Netflix. His phone was charging on the nightstand. His car keys were sitting in the ceramic bowl Piper made him for Father's Day. And the thing outside that sounded exactly like my husband was still knocking on our back door, still calling my name with his voice, still asking to be let inside. We moved to Millbrook 3 years ago when Piper was 5. After years of cramped apartment living in Hartford, the 4-bedroom colonial on Sycamore Street felt like a palace. The realtor couldn't stop gushing about the neighborhood, excellent schools, low crime rate, friendly neighbors who actually knew each other's names. She was right about everything, which made what happened later so much harder to believe. Our backyard stretches out about half an acre before it hits the tree line. Old-growth forest, the kind that's been there since before Connecticut was even a state. The previous owners had installed a powerful security light on the back of the house that illuminated the entire yard. Griffin loved it because he could see clearly when he came home from his night shifts at the hospital. I loved it because Piper could play outside after dinner in the fall when the days got shorter. Vera Quinton's property sits right next to ours, separated by a low wooden fence that's probably been there since the 70s. She's 72, widowed, and has lived in that house for 35 years. The first time we met her, she was out tending her roses, wearing a sun hat that looked like it came from another era, and gardening gloves that went up to her elbows despite the summer heat. "Welcome to the neighborhood," she'd said, barely looking up from her pruning. "Your daughter is lovely. Keep an eye on her." At the time, I thought she meant it the way everyone warns parents about keeping kids safe. Now I know she meant something very specific. Vera was odd, but every neighborhood has that one eccentric neighbor, right? She grew the most stunning roses I'd ever seen, these deep red blooms that looked almost black in certain light. Her front yard was immaculate, every blade of grass exactly the right height, every shrub trimmed to mathematical precision. But her backyard was different. She let it grow wild back there, and she'd installed motion sensors along her fence line, the kind that click on if a squirrel runs past. Except for one weird detail, her backyard light never worked. The fixture was there, mounted on her back porch, and I could even see the bulb inside the glass housing. But in 3 years, I'd never seen it turn on, not once. "Mrs. Quinton's afraid of the dark," Piper announced one day after accepting a butterscotch candy from Vera over the fence. "She told me she keeps lights on inside all night long." "Then why doesn't she fix her backyard light?" Griffin had asked, genuinely puzzled. He'd even offered to repair it for her once when he was fixing our gate. Vera had gone pale and actually stepped back from him. "That light stays broken," she'd said firmly. "Some things are better left in the dark." Griffin thought she was going senile. I thought she was just set in her ways. We joked about it sometimes during our morning coffee, making up increasingly ridiculous theories about why Vera Quinton refused to illuminate her backyard. Griffin's favorite was that she was running a secret moonshine operation. Mine was that she was hiding the world's ugliest garden gnome collection. Our routine was comfortable and predictable. Griffin worked 3 12-hour night shifts a week at Millbrook General, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. He'd leave at 6:30 p.m. and return around 2:30 a.m., sometimes later if the ER was slammed. On his work nights, I had my routine down to a science. Dinner with Piper at 6, homework help until 7:30, bath time, then bed by 8:30. After that, the house was mine. I'd pour a glass of wine, catch up on work emails, and watch whatever shows Griffin claimed were too dramatic for his taste. Tuesday nights were my favorite. Something about the middle of the week felt safe and quiet. Our street would go silent by 10 p.m., porch lights clicking off one by one as our neighbors settled in for the night. Vera's house would stay lit up like a Christmas display, every window glowing warmly except for the back of her house, which remained stubbornly dark. The week before the note, I'd noticed Vera acting stranger than usual. She was in her garden before dawn, standing among her roses, but not gardening, just standing there facing our house. When I waved from the kitchen window, she didn't wave back. She just watched me for a moment, then walked inside. "Maybe she's lonely," I told Griffin that night. "Her husband's been gone for decades. No kids ever visit." "She's made her choices," Griffin replied, practical as always. "Some people prefer being alone." But looking back now, Vera wasn't choosing isolation. She was maintaining a perimeter, she was standing guard, and she'd been doing it for 35 years, waiting for someone to finally believe her warning. Tuesday, October 15th, started like any other night. Griffin left for his shift at 6:30, kissing Piper on the forehead and telling her to be good for mommy. She was in her unicorn pajamas, the ones with the rainbow mane, building a fortress out of couch cushions while I cleaned up dinner dishes. At 9:47 p.m., I heard scratching at the front door. Not knocking, but a deliberate scratching sound, like someone dragging their fingernails across the wood. I muted the TV and listened. The scratching stopped, followed by soft footsteps moving away from the door. When I checked the peephole, no one was there, but on the doormat sat a piece of aged yellow paper, folded once. I grabbed it quickly and locked the door behind me. The handwriting was shaky but deliberate, written in blue fountain pen. "Dear Bethany, this is urgent. Do not turn on your backyard light after 11 p.m., no matter what you hear, no matter what you think you see. Your daughter's safety depends on this. I cannot explain more. Please trust me. V. Quinton." My first thought was that Vera was having some kind of episode. I called Griffin immediately, catching him between patients. "Honey, she's 72 and lives alone," Griffin said, his voice tired but patient. "Maybe she's sundowning?" "Elderly people sometimes get confused in the evenings." "But she seemed fine yesterday," I protested. "She was deadheading her roses at noon, totally normal. She even reminded me about the HOA meeting next week." "Want me to come home? I can tell Susan I have a family emergency." "No, it's fine," I said, looking at the note again. The writing was strange but steady, not the scrawl of someone confused. "I'll check on her tomorrow morning. Probably for the best. Lock everything up tight and get some sleep. Love you." At 10:30 p.m., just as I was about to head upstairs, Piper appeared in the hallway, tears streaming down her face. "Mommy, I had a scary dream," she sobbed, climbing into my lap on the couch. "What did you dream about, baby?" Someone was standing in the backyard. They looked like Daddy, but wrong somehow. Their arms were too long and their smile was broken. My skin erupted in goosebumps. "It was just a nightmare, sweetheart. Daddy's at work helping sick people, remember? The wrong Daddy kept asking me to come outside and play. He said he had a surprise for me, but his voice sounded like it was coming from underwater." I carried Piper back to bed, checking her window locks twice and pulling her curtains tight. After she fell asleep, I went through the house systematically, checking every door, every window, even the basement bulkhead. Everything was secure. At 11:15 p.m., I heard our garbage cans tip over in the side yard. Raccoons were common in our neighborhood, always getting into trash. I walked to the kitchen, my hand automatically reaching for the backyard light switch. My fingers touched the plastic, and Vera's note flashed in my mind. I pulled my hand back. Through the kitchen window, darkness stretched across our yard like spilled ink, but there was movement near the fence line. Something tall walked along the perimeter, too upright for any animal we had in Connecticut. It moved wrong, like someone had taught it how to walk but hadn't explained the rhythm quite right. The figure stopped at our back gate. I heard the metal latch rattle. At 11:38 p.m., 3 measured knocks echoed from the back door, perfectly spaced, perfectly normal. Then 3 more. "Bethany? Honey?" "It's me." Griffin's voice, clear and familiar. My heart jumped with relief before logic kicked in. Griffin never came home early without calling. Never. I forgot my keys. Can you let me in? The voice was perfect. Every inflection, every trace of his Boston accent that slipped out when he was tired. But Griffin's keys were upstairs. I'd seen them when I'd checked on Piper. Bethany? I can see you through the curtain. Come on, I'm exhausted. I backed away from the door, my bare feet silent on the kitchen tile. The curtain was closed. There was no gap, nothing to see through. I know you're in there. Your wine glass is on the counter. The TV is paused. Just open the door. The thing outside knew details it shouldn't know. My hands shook as I grabbed my phone from the counter, nearly knocking over the wine glass the voice had mentioned. It's cold out here, Beth. Really cold. Griffin never called me Beth. Not once in 12 years of marriage. It was always Bethany or Honey or, when he was feeling playful, Betty Spaghetti, a ridiculous nickname from our dating days. Whatever was outside my door wasn't my husband. At 11:42 p.m., the voice outside shifted tactics, becoming softer, more desperate. Bethany, please. I got off early. There was a power outage at the hospital. They sent all non-essential staff home. Check the news if you don't believe me. My phone was already in my hand. I pulled up the local news site. Nothing about a power outage. Millbrook General's Facebook page showed a photo posted an hour ago of the staff celebrating a successful surgery. The lights were clearly on. I'm hurt, honey. I think I twisted my ankle in the dark. Please just turn on the lights so you can see it's really me. The pleading in that voice was so genuine, so perfectly Griffin, that my resolve almost cracked. But I forced myself to move silently up the stairs, keeping my phone's flashlight off, navigating by memory and moonlight filtering through the hallway window. Our bedroom door was open. Griffin was there, sprawled across the bed in his navy scrubs, sleeping deeply. His chest rose and fell steadily. His hospital ID badge caught the hallway light. Griffin Carver, RN, Emergency Department. His phone sat charging on his nightstand, the green light blinking with unread messages. I typed a text without sending it yet. Someone outside pretending to be you. Staying quiet. Don't turn on lights if you wake. The voice drifted up from below, now at the living room window. Piper had another nightmare. She's asking for you. She's out here with me. Pure terror flooded my system. I crept to Piper's room, cracking the door just enough to see inside. She was curled under her unicorn comforter, Mister. Patches the stuffed elephant clutched to her chest, breathing steadily. Safe. Inside. I hit send on the text to Griffin. His phone buzzed. He didn't stir. Back at our bedroom window, I peered through a gap in the blinds at the backyard below. The figure stood in the middle of our lawn, wearing Griffin's jacket, the Columbia one he kept in the garage for yard work. It stood perfectly still, arms at its sides, face tilted up toward our window. Even in the darkness, something was fundamentally wrong. The proportions were off, like someone had stretched a photograph until it distorted. I dialed 911, whispering to the dispatcher. There's an intruder in my yard impersonating my husband's voice. My husband is asleep next to me. The intruder keeps asking me to open the door. We're sending a unit immediately, ma'am. Stay inside. Keep doors locked. Officers will be there in 5 minutes. I know you're awake up there, the voice called out, still using Griffin's tone, but with something else underneath now, like two voices speaking in unison. I can smell your fear through the walls. It smells like copper pennies and spoiled milk. No human being would say that. Griffin definitely wouldn't say that. The thing moved closer to the house. Turn on the light, Bethany. I need you to see me. I need you to understand what I'm offering. I could be him forever, you know. Better than him. I'd never work late, never forget anniversaries, never leave whiskers in the sink. My blood chilled. Griffin had left whiskers in the sink that morning. I'd complained about it while he was rushing to get ready. Only someone inside our house would know that detail. How do you know about the sink? I whispered without thinking. Oh, you can hear me. Good. We can have a proper conversation now. Turn on the light. I clamped my hand over my mouth. Vera's warning echoed in my mind. No matter what you hear. The urgency in her handwriting suddenly made terrible sense. I know you're scared. That's natural. But I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here to improve things. Griffin works too much, doesn't he? Always tired, always stressed. I wouldn't be." The figure moved to the back door again, and I heard fingernails dragging across the wood, the same sound from the front door earlier. "I've been watching you for weeks, learning your patterns. Tuesday nights, alone with your wine and your shows. You deserve better than loneliness. Turn on the light." Through the window, I saw it raise one impossibly long arm and knock again. But this time, the knock came from inside the wall, like it was somehow reaching through the exterior and tapping from within the house itself. "Last chance, Bethany." "Turn on the light, or I'll have to find another way in. There are so many ways into a house. Pipes, vents, cracks you don't even know exist." I'm trying to be polite, but my patience isn't infinite. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. The sirens grew louder, and the thing in Griffin's jacket tilted its head at an angle that would have snapped a human neck. "You called them." "That was unwise, Bethany. Now I'll have to visit your neighbors instead. The Jeffreys have a new baby. Babies are so trusting." Rage flooded through my fear. I grabbed Griffin's shoulder, shaking him hard. "Griffin, wake up, now!" He jerked awake, confused and groggy. "What?" "Bethany, what's wrong? Someone's outside pretending to be you." "The police are coming. Stay quiet." His confusion shifted to alertness as the sirens reached our street. Red and blue lights flashed through our bedroom window. The thing in the backyard made a sound like radio static mixed with a scream, a noise that seemed to come from everywhere at once. That's when Vera's bedroom light blazed to life next door. The elderly woman stood at her window holding what looked like an ancient floodlight, the kind photographers used in the 1960s. She aimed it directly at our backyard, and suddenly the darkness was obliterated by harsh white light. What I saw in that light will haunt me forever. The thing wearing Griffin's jacket wasn't human. It had the general shape of a man, but its limbs were too long, joints bending in too many places. Its face was the worst part. It had tried to copy Griffin's features but gotten the proportions wrong, like a child's drawing brought to life. The eyes were solid black, too many of them clustered where eyes should be. The mouth opened sideways, revealing rows of teeth that belonged in no earthly creature. It shrieked and moved toward the tree line, not running but skittering, its body contorting in ways that made my stomach heave, spider-like, but wearing human clothes. The Columbia jacket tore as its limbs extended, leaving shreds of fabric caught on our fence. 2 police officers rounded the corner of our house, flashlights raised. "Millbrook Police! Stop where you are!" But the thing was already gone, vanished into the forest with inhuman speed. The officers stood stunned, their flashlights sweeping the empty yard. Griffin was at the window now, his face pale. What the hell was that? Vera appeared at our back door, which I opened with shaking hands. She looked exhausted but determined, still, clutching her floodlight like a weapon. Behind her stood the 2 officers, both young, both clearly shaken. "May we come in?" one officer asked. "We need to understand what we just saw." We gathered in my kitchen, Vera placing an old leather journal on the table. Her hands trembled as she opened it. "It's been coming here since 1987, she began, her voice steady despite her shaking hands. "Maybe longer, but that's when I first encountered it." She showed us entries dating back decades, sketches of things almost human but wrong, photographs where shadows had too many limbs, police reports about missing persons who were never missing. "It took my Herald in February of 1988, she continued, pointing to a photo of a handsome man with kind eyes. "I lived with that thing for 3 weeks before I noticed his eyes had too many pupils. When I confronted it under bright light, it fled. But Harold never came back. I found his body in the woods months later." Griffin gripped my hand so tight it hurt. "Why didn't you tell anyone?" "I tried. The police thought I was having a breakdown. My own sister tried to have me committed, so I learned to stay quiet and stay vigilant. It feeds on trust, you see. The moment you open the door, believing it's someone you love, you've given it permission to enter. And once it's inside, it doesn't need darkness anymore. It can take their place completely." The officer, whose badge read Martinez, was taking notes with unsteady hands. "Ma'am, we need to report this." Vera laughed bitterly. Report what? That you saw a monster? They'll bury the report like they buried mine in 88, 91, 96, 2003, 2011, and 2019. She flipped to a page covered in dates and names. Every few years it tries again, always picking houses with someone who works nights, always mimicking voices of loved ones. The Hendersons in 96, their son was a trucker. The Nguyens in 2011, she was a night shift janitor. And now you, with Griffin working at the hospital. But why our house? I asked. It's not about your house. It's about the pattern. It studies routines, learns when people are alone, when they're vulnerable. Tuesday nights, you're alone. It knew that. Officer Martinez's radio crackled. Unit 12, we've got another call on Maple Street. Woman reports her deceased mother knocking on her door. Vera closed her eyes. It's moving faster now. Getting bolder. The police found nothing in the woods that night. No tracks, no evidence, just Griffin's shredded jacket hanging from a branch 15 feet up in a pine tree. The official report listed it as attempted break-in, suspect fled scene. Officer Martinez pulled me aside before leaving and pressed his card into my hand. Call me directly if anything else happens. Some things don't belong in official reports. Griffin didn't go back to work that week. He installed floodlights around our entire property, motion sensors on every corner, cameras covering every angle. Our electricity. Bill tripled, but neither of us cared. Sleep became something we did in shifts. One always awake, always watching. Vera gave me her journal 3 days later. She stood at my front door with a suitcase, taxi idling in the driveway. I'm moving to Florida to live with my sister, she said, pressing the worn leather book into my hands. I'm 72 years old. I've stood watch for 35 years. It's someone else's turn now. Wait, you're leaving? Just like that? She gripped my shoulders with surprising strength. You have a daughter to protect. You're strong enough, stronger than I was. I lost Harold because I didn't believe fast enough. You believed. You listened. That makes all the difference. But what if it comes back? Not if. When? It will come back. But now you know its rules. It needs permission, it needs darkness, and it needs trust. Don't give it any of those things. 3 weeks passed. Life returned to something resembling normal. Piper went back to school. Griffin returned to his shifts, though he now called every hour and had security walk him to his car. I tried to focus on work, but found myself reading Vera's journal instead, memorizing every detail, every pattern she'd documented. Then Thursday morning, over breakfast, Piper said something that made my blood freeze. Mommy, why does Mrs. Jenkins next door knock on my window at night? I set down my coffee cup carefully. What do you mean, sweetie? Last night, she was tapping on my window. She said she lost her cat and wanted me to help look for it. Griffin went rigid. Piper, Mrs. Jenkins doesn't have a cat. She's allergic. I know. That's why I didn't open the window. Plus, her smile had too many teeth, like they went all the way back to her ears. We looked at each other across the table, the truth settling over us like a shroud. The thing hadn't left. It had just changed tactics, moved to different houses, learned new faces. That afternoon, I found myself doing what Vera had done. I typed up a warning on cream-colored paper, made 30 copies, and slipped them under doors throughout our neighborhood after dark. Most people probably threw them away, but maybe someone would listen. Maybe someone would believe. To our neighbors on Sycamore Street, please keep your exterior lights on after 11 p.m. If you hear a loved one at your door late at night, verify they're actually outside before opening. Your family's safety may depend on it. 2 families moved away within a month. The Jeffreys installed security lights. Old Mr. Patterson started keeping a baseball bat by his door. Mrs. Jenkins herself came by to ask about the note, and I noticed she now wore a cross that she touched constantly, her eyes darting to shadows. I've become the neighborhood's unofficial night watcher. When I see lights go off after 11 p.m., I send anonymous texts from a burner phone. Please turn your lights back on. Some listen, some don't. The ones who don't sometimes report. Strange encounters in the neighborhood Facebook group, always deleted by morning, always dismissed as pranks or dreams. Last week, I got a postcard from Florida. No return address, but I recognized Vera's handwriting. Still watching? Good. Check page 147. Page 147 of her journal contained a single line I'd somehow missed before. There are more of them every year. I installed another floodlight yesterday. Griffin thinks I'm becoming paranoid, but he doesn't argue. He's seen what I've seen. Piper now knows to never answer knocks after dark, never trust voices through doors, never believe someone asking to come inside at night, no matter who they sound like. Because here's what Vera knew, what I know now, what you need to know. They're not just in Millbrook. They're learning, spreading, adapting. Maybe they're in your town too, waiting for someone to work late, waiting for someone to be alone, waiting for that moment of trust when you open your door to a familiar voice. So check your locks, keep your lights on, and if someone you love knocks on your door late at night, make absolutely certain they're supposed to be outside, because once you let them in, they never leave. If this story disturbed you, good. Stay disturbed. Stay vigilant. Share this video with anyone who lives alone or works night shifts. Comment if you've experienced something similar in your neighborhood, and subscribe to this channel because these stories aren't just stories anymore. Some of them are warnings.